Okay, first I'm going to go ahead and give the medical disclaimer. The information provided is for educational purposes and is not intended as medical advice or substitute for medical advice of a physician or other qualified healthcare professional. You should not use this information for diagnosing a health or fitness problem or disease, and you should always consult with a doctor or other healthcare professional for medical advice or information about diagnosis and treatment. And as it pertains to the slides, Root does not claim to cure or get rid of cancer. That probably gives you an idea of what we're going to be talking about today. Well, welcome to the call and welcome home, Dr. Christina, from your latest trip to New York and for the UN and Women for Peace. I'm sure everyone would love to hear about this important event and what happened.
Thank you, Dori. Next time you're going to be at the event, so I'm excited about that. We're doing some stuff this summer in Europe, and Dori is going to work with me on that because ISNS and Root and Cure the Causes have partnered with the UN Women for Peace. And it's a really interesting story I got to hear when I was in New York. And just to give you guys a little breakout of what happened, we were asked, I was asked to be the chair for the state of Tennessee. Clayton was asked to be the chair for the state of Washington. And we worked with other women throughout the world and with the ambassadors of the UN that are dedicated to women, because there's the UN, there's the UN Women, and then there's the UN Women for Peace, which is a nonprofit that's dedicated, that works with the UN Women, and it's a segment of that, but it's dedicated to women and health wellness issues. Particularly what they're focused on is, of course, stopping trafficking throughout the world and working with men and women to do that. Also stopping abuse, physical, emotional, mental abuse, where people use the legal system to abuse women or positions of power. They also do a lot with not just women, but minorities, and making sure that they focus on changing things, because unfortunately, as social media has grown, as the internet has grown, abuse has gotten to be even worse. Part of that is child pornography and pornography. So being able to really empower women to step up and to make a change and make a difference for other women throughout the world. But also, I have 3 sons, and working with men is very important as well. So in this movement, they are empowering or supporting men to rehabilitate that have gone through this, because they've noticed that when they go to jail or they do different things, it's not rehabilitating or changing a system. So they're really working with that. And, for those of you, there's many different opinions on the UN. Some people love the UN, some people don't. And I say this all the time. Our position at International Science Nutrition Society and the position of Root, for me as a scientist, and Dori, I don't know how you feel, but we can't just sit in the dark and point our fingers at other people. We've got to step up and be part of the solution. It was very interesting. I went to a dinner, and the president, her name is Rima DuPont, she asked the group, who here has ever experienced abuse? And of course I raised my hand. Everybody, I think, but one woman there raised their hand. And she said, not just physical abuse, emotional, mental, abuse against your career, abuse against you in the legal system. And I feel like I've kind of gone through all of it. But she said, we're not here to point fingers at men. We're here to support each other. We're here to support rehabilitation and to make changes. So if we can all work together, women and men, in doing this scientifically and from a psychological and spiritual perspective, we can do long-term good. And I couldn't agree with her more. Not to condone bad behavior, but instead we've really got to make some disruptive changes, and we've got to support and not be scared. They shared a story of the past president and CEO at that meeting, where she actually stood up against, I think they were talking about the Congo and how I think 90% of the women are raped before the age of 16, and how they actually took a stand, and then it went to legal. It went before Congress. They were actually sued, and people attacked them, and they knew their own lives would be at stake, these women that are running this, but they chose to stand up anyway. And for someone who's had to endure legal systems that men have tried to attack me, and then physically I've gone through my own, as well as emotional and mental abuse, it was really inspiring. And I felt kind of like, wow, I have a lot more to do. I need to stop, feeling sorry for myself. I have a lot of things to stand up for, because the truth is a lot of us have gone through things. And the goal is not to shame people, but to help each other and to make these changes throughout the world. And as a scientist, as a psychologist, as a woman and a friend and a mother, daughter, sister, I really think it's important that men and women do this. So I want you guys to know, Cure the Causes book was given to every ambassador and person that was there. There were a lot of influential people. There were a lot of people, billionaires and people that are the most influential people in the world. And we had the opportunity, Stephanie Fultz and Tiffany Preston worked really hard to bring the Root bags with all the samples out, and Root sponsored that. And ISNS also had a presence at that. ISNS will step up even more at the next meeting. This will grow throughout the next year as we work together to really make these changes. And I have to say this again, as a scientist, it's important. But even as a human being on this earth, it's even more important to me. When we're scared, when we're hurt, when we're attacked, it's, the thing we want to do is hide. But the thing that we have to do is to step up and to make these positive changes. And when we talk about wellness, when we talk about health, it's not just physical. We're pertaining to, and we're talking about mental, emotional, and spiritual health as well. And I cannot wait for Dori and I and Claire and all the rest of you guys to work on this mission together, because to me, it was hugely important. I had some people tell me, Christina, why would you work with the UN? And I'm so glad I did it. I'm so glad I'm part of it. Again, hiding and ignoring issues or thinking, well, that group's bad, so I can't partner with them, is not the solution. We've got to be the solution to make changes in a positive way. So through that, I was asked to meet this weekend with the King of Ghana. Ted is in Washington, D.C. right now, working with one of the ambassadors next to the ambassador of Namibia. And so we're working on a project with them. And I just want to tell this entire group, thank you. Thank you for being part of a positive change. Thank you for not being the negative side. Thank you for being an influential group of people, because in life, it's not if things are going to go wrong, right? Or if things are going to be perfect. They're going to go wrong, and things aren't always perfect. And all of us make mistakes. We all do things that are not perfect, but we've got to try every day to be a positive light and to try to correct those. And that's my goal in working with Root. That's my goal in working with the International Science Nutrition Society. And I couldn't be happier to be part of this community, because we get to approach these issues together and we get to work together arm in arm. And the goal is not to have one person in front. The goal is to have all of us working on this together. So I just want to say thank you. You guys know my history. I know Dori probably wants to talk about it, but I just want to say this. I've worked really hard to get to where I've been, but you guys have too. And Dori, Dr. Dori has worked incredibly hard. Claire, all the rest of you guys that are on this call, to really stand together to make influential changes. I was on a platinum call with Shauna earlier, and she's one of the platinums, and she was talking about the changes she's made in her life and other people, because she chose to stand up. And, she's one of the faces of this company that I respect, like I respect all of you. She really is taking her piece of the puzzle, because we're all this piece, right, to this magical puzzle that can often be chaos. She's taken her piece and her personality and her light and her scientific DNA, and she's making positive changes. And together, we're going to talk today about how we can use Dr. Dori's career and her education and her light to change things, how I can use mine to make an impact, and how each of you can, because we're going to share information that has to do with how our properties really stop or assist the body at stopping bad things from happening in the body. We can't make claims. We don't claim Root cures something or the products cure something. but we do say that our products are there to get rid of the bad, right? To eradicate the bad. I'm going to stop using the word detox. It's not permitted in Germany. I want to say eradicate. We're eradicating the bad and we're supporting the body and being good. And this is so important. We were going to talk about collagen and colostrum, but we're not launching Give Me Back My Youth until June 1st. We made that decision today because our products have grown so much in so many countries, and our volume has grown, and we're helping so many people. And now with the impact of going to a UN meeting, I want to tell you, I always try to see the positive in things, but I have to share a little bit of a negative with you guys. I'm sitting there and people are taking pictures of the book, and because they all got a book, Cure the Causes. They all got the root products, and they all were trying to go order. And I had multiple people come up to me and say, wait a minute, some of your products are out. Or some of the root products are out. And I don't look at them as my products. They're our products, right? All of us on this, we're all in this together. And I said, yes. And they said, how can you come to a UN event with people all over the world and ambassadors from all over? I mean, I sat by the ambassador of Nabia, and Nabia, I never say it right. Clayton, how do I say it, Dori? I don't even know if I say it. No. Navia. Clayton sat next to the ambassador of Honduras. And like I said, I think Ted's at the ambassadors in Washington, D.C. as we speak. But it was a great question, right? How can you guys have this company that the UN has allowed to partner with and sponsor under International Science Nutrition Society? And how have you guys done that and you don't have product? And I said, great question. It's called we've been surviving and we need to thrive. And they said, what do you mean? And I said, well, in life, you have to tell the truth. You have to tell the truth when you are doing things great. You have to tell the truth when you're failing. And I said, we did not plan effectively at making sure that we source things 6 months in advance. Well, we thought we did. We just had no idea we would grow as fast as we've grown. And so the good news is, just so you guys know, those products are being made as we speak, and we will have those very shortly so that there's not any more of a gap. We're hoping 2 weeks. The bad news is we've let people down. And I say that because I don't take these products lightly. They are helping people throughout the world. They're making major changes in people's lives, because they're impacting their wellness and their self-care, which to me is one of the most important issues. We always talk about when we get sick, but we need to focus on our day-to-day wellness and health. And by meeting with people that were the owners of the Astros, one of our sports teams in the United States, and meeting with Quincy Jones's daughter, and I could go on and on, just major people that are here to make an impact with this. It really hit me even more that you guys have shared this message so much scientifically that so many people throughout the world, even governments and countries and ambassadors, want to try this product. It's a humbling experience to know that so many people are depending on us. So whether you're in this for the financial aspect, or you're in this for I don't know where the noise is coming from, Dori.
I'm gonna find out.
Okay. Or you're in this from the health and wellness aspect. My hope is every member of this group that are in this together, that our goal is to do a positive thing for others, whether it's emotional or mental or physical or spiritual. Let's do that. And when we're attacked by others, whether again, it's physical, emotional, mental, spiritual, through a legal system, through our companies, let's always try to take the high road and do the right thing. Because in the end, your positive energy will come here, and the people that are attacking are negative. And Dori, you know this, you and I have talked about this. They're the ones that really end up suffering because they give into darkness, something that's not positive. So right now, I want you guys to know how thankful I am that we have all these bright lights and these spiritual energies of good people that are working together for a great cause. We will be sharing highlights of the UN meeting and these sub meetings where we did different things. We will be, it's in the press actually. Clayton just sent me some stuff that they released with pictures, but we will be giving you guys more and more information. But today, we are going to talk about how our products do help people. And we're going to focus today on Restore, Dori. And, I personally love Restore. You guys know how I feel about it. It's something that, and I know Dori loves it too. And I always get the number of Restore packets she takes a day wrong. So Dori, tell me.
I can only do 4 a day.
The most I've done is 5. I usually do 2 to 3.
I did 5 last year and that was a disaster.
You had to go to the bathroom a lot. Someone said to me the other day,
What happens?
we kept, we put in the packets at the UN, Restore, Zero In, Clean Slate. We didn't put the other products because we couldn't take the, natural barrier and relive greens, but we did give them a packet of Restore. So I had people text me yesterday and today, or call and tell me that they tried it. And yes, it does impact people because it's so strong that some people, even with a tablespoon, like if you have kidney issues or dialysis, we always recommend, consulting a doctor, but starting with the very small amounts because it's very, very strong properties and natural isotopes of getting rid of things. And we're going to talk about how it impacts the different pathways that basically perpetuate or grow cancer. So it stops really that signaling. And that's what's so important. I'll never forget working in Africa. And we were working on a project where we had black cumin seed and turmeric and resveratrol and different products or different ingredients. And it was helping people so much so that when I came over and got to do a product over here, I really wanted a concentrate as you can get. So when people tell me, I try Restore and it's orange, I'm like, I know it is because it has such a strong proponent of turmeric curcumin in it. And there's reasons why I put such a high concentration of it. We're going to go over that. The active ingredients, which I kind of talked about earlier, the black cumin seed, resveratrol, turmeric, raspberry ketones, apple cider vinegar, aloe vera, and D-ribose. All of these ingredients, guys, really help with the anti-inflammatory benefits, and they really help stop that inflammation, which is what's so important. They also are very powerful antioxidants, and we are getting third-party testing in Europe right now as we speak, as Dori knows, on this product, so that you guys in Europe and the United States will have third-party testing from one of the top labs. We've also sent it off for third-party testing, and we did this in the very beginning, but we're getting additional testing on this product. And as Dori can tell you, and I do want to talk about this briefly, Dori, we have tons of case studies with Restore where we've seen positive results. Can you share with people some of those where we have seen Restore help people, like in psoriasis and diabetes and things like that?
Almost all the case studies that we've used Restore has had such a positive impact. I mean, and recently we just had another case. Well, we haven't actually written the case study up yet. I mean, maybe you want to ask, maybe you'd like to ask Claire about that one, since she was.
Are we talking about Susan?
Yes.
Yes. Restore was a huge part of her, how do we put it? Medically being free of any cancer. It was literally, I think she was taking 2 or 3 packs a day, plus obviously also the clean slate. But she felt it was a huge part of her regeneration. And I think it was 9 months, wasn't it, Dori? From start of uterine cancer, probably stage 4.
Yeah, it was at least stage 3, stage 4. It was
bordering on stage 4, yeah.
But anyway, so that was one of them that, that's something we're going to write up later. But every single product that, every case study that involves Restore has had such a profound effect.
Hugely. And the other thing that it helped was also because of the effect, because she was taking a bit of chemo, that it restored the gut, because there was a lot of disturbance in the whole microbiome from taking the chemo as well.
Yeah, and I have noticed with some people they needed to take when they're very sick or something's happening, they need to take 3. However, I want to say this, there are people with different again, because this product is there to restore the body back to this best health they can have, you know, and wellness. There are some people that can't take a ton of restore, and that's okay too, because everybody's body's different. We all have different DNA. This goes back to why this product is that beautiful orange color. We use the root extract, which is the curcumin. And this is something that is known all over the world. It's especially written about in the journals, the scientific medical journals in the Middle East, in Asia, in Eastern Europe. There's a lot of articles that talk about how this particular ingredient is helpful for not just inflammation and as an antioxidant, but it also helps with things and assists the body with things like the prevention of cancer, treatment of Alzheimer's disease. Dori can talk about this even more than me, the reduction of heart disease, a lot of specific things. And I think it's interesting on this particular slide, we say brain-derived neurotrophic factor. It helps with the brain, and it helps increase the neurotransmission of the brain. It assists the body. So it's associated with many things. And any of you guys that want studies, because I have such a hard time reading everything while I'm on here, Claire, if there's any way you can take notes on what people are asking, what kind of studies, we can try to provide some of those as well. We have lots of information on turmeric curcumin because the amount of products that we use this in. And I do want to point out, a lot of people talk about 0N and how it helps assist the body with mood and depression. But I want to tell you guys, and things like Alzheimer's and things like ADHD. And again, they can't make that claim, but we have so many case studies. And I want to point out that Restore also is one of those products that can assist people with that. And I talked to you guys about the anti-cancer properties, and which I think is on the next slide, and the mechanism of action of curcumin. But I want to point this out. I talked to you guys about how it inhibits things, right? So I want to go to the comment that curcumin inhibits the STAT3 and NF-κB signaling pathways, which are the key roles in cancer development and progression. Many of you guys know that I worked for companies like Biogen IDEC and Alexion, and that they have a huge oncology hematology program. They do human monoclonal antibodies and lots of different products for this area of healthcare. We continuously would do education with doctors on STAT3 and NF-κB and the signaling pathways and how important it was to stop it. We would even go into P450 pathways and SP1 activation and downstream of genes and all of that stuff. But just for today's call, I want to point out that the mechanism of action of curcumin is one of the things that can really cut that off. So there's not enough education. There's not enough information out there that really explains that to people. We always talk about when we're sick. So what happens is if you're predisposed to cancer like me, my whole family's had cancer, I've had cancer since my 20s, you start looking into this stuff. So it wasn't just my healthcare career. It wasn't just all the things that happened in my life. It was the fact that I was sick, and I started thinking, wait a minute, how do I stop this before it gets to that point, knowing that I may not always be successful? And that's when I really started studying curcumin. I had someone ask me the other day, for example, when did you start studying zeolites? I go, well, when did I not? It wasn't a focus every day of my life, but it was something that was extremely important to me. And this particular ingredient, this particular property of curcumin can help with DNA binding activity. It can actually, it's known to assist with different types of cell carcinoma, as well as different types of stressor with tumor cells. And what I mean by that, it really cuts the inflammation and cuts the ability of that tumor cell to continue to grow or even activate. So it may be there, but you've got to activate it. And I think it's really important to discuss that. And I think it's also important to talk about apoptosis. What is apoptosis? Apoptosis is programmed cell death. I spent a lot of my life focusing on working on products that would program an IV or an injection to go in and cause apoptosis, which is the death of the cell, or necrosis, slow death, right? Slow aging and death. It's interesting that we have these natural, amazing products that can do that as well. And it's blows my mind when people tell me there's no way that's possible. Dori, how many articles are out there about this?
Oh my goodness. There's tons of articles. All you have to do is, go to Google Scholar, research it. I mean, there's so many things out there. And the neat thing about curcumin is that, it has a variety of health benefits, including, obviously, we're talking about cancer cells. And I thought it was interesting because there's been multiple studies from independent groups that have evidence, like for this signal transducer for the STAT3, right? And it activated this transcription factor. It's activation in nearly 50% of, for example, like lung cancers. And so what that's suggesting is that this evidence, they hypothesized that the bioavailability of like a curcuminoid complex may modulate the lung carcinogenesis by basically inhibiting the STAT3 activation. And of course, we need to do a talk on NFKB because I love talking about that pathway. It's this is all about the inflammation pathways, and it's really interesting because if you type in NFKB and then do a plus or and inflammation, you will see a plethora of different diseases that are created by when this pathway gets turned on. But you can turn this pathway off, so as well.
That's such a great point. And Dori, I was on the phone with a major $2 billion company kind of in our space, and they were talking to me about different NFKB pathways and our influence on them. And I said, yeah, I have a little bit to say about that. We had a lengthy discussion, and you're 100% right. We need to focus. We need to do a presentation just on that. Because another thing, I was on the phone this morning on an interview, and someone asked me about clean slate and detoxification. And I said, I like to say eradication and support of the body. And, I think that they've changed the website and everything to support the correct language that we should use. But they said, so why don't you like to use detoxification? I said, well, because we eradicate the bad things, but at the same time, we support the body and providing and protecting the body through the natural mechanisms of these amazing ingredients. And the individual said, well, what would happen if people didn't have clean slate? How would they eradicate things? I said, easy. We have curcumin in our products. We have spirulina. We have chlorella. And I went into, and Dori, we did that whole slide deck on detoxification that we should have titled eradication. But
and eradication and optimization, because that's what's happening at the same time. We're eradicating and we're optimizing.
Yeah, I like that better than providing. I love optimizing. Yeah, you're right. And I think we did put that in the wording. I'd have to go back and check. I actually never go to the website, but everyone else updates me on it. But I did work for like 8 hours on the wording the other day. So, it's amazing that we have these key ingredients. And again, it is hard to source these ingredients. It is hard to get them because we use only the best sourcing and the best ingredients. And I've said this a lot. Restore is one of our most expensive products. So is Relive Greens, because of the key ingredients and where they're sourced. One of those key ingredients is black cumin seed oil. Anyone that has ever watched me or known me knows that I really am a huge supporter of this. And again, it goes back to, I want to put things in my body every day that support my body, not just in getting rid and stopping the progression of inflammation, but that can also stop things that I know I'm prone to. And again, one of those things for me is cancer, because I'm predisposed. I've had it when I was pregnant. I've had it throughout my life, and I continue to have issues. So this is one of the key products I'd love to take. And one of the reasons is black cumin seed. It also helps with assisting the body with pain. And the reason it does that is it stops, again, that progression. And it's because of the thiamoquinone, and I never say that right either because of my speech impediment, but it really has the ability to stop the growth because of the communication. And what it does is it cuts off that communication. It's like a barrier, so it doesn't happen. And through that, it also, of course, helps with anti-diabetic properties, which is why when people say to me, are you worried about Restore if it makes people gain weight? I'm like, it's the opposite. It's not a product that will make people gain weight. It's a product that has key ingredients that really stop the body from having these negative things that are in there and progressing. And also, as you said, Dori, optimize where the body is. But I think it's important for people to know that throughout the world, again, I'm going to go back to this, and Dori can testify, you guys could look at this. There are so many articles throughout the world. There's even articles that talk not just about black cumin seed and cancer, black cumin seed and tumors, but they also even go into black cumin seed and its effect, because we do know that fungus and parasites can lead to cancer, right? Because it can start this whole process. And we know that black cumin seed is one of those ingredients like turmeric that can assist with fungus, assist with parasites. And I even had the experience firsthand to see black cumin seed put into a person's body that had parasites everywhere. And you should see the parasites just run out of the wound. It was crazy. And so I've experienced it firsthand. I've seen it firsthand. I've even been in rooms in other countries where they've used black cumin seed in IV format to help people. So I want you guys to know this is a very important ingredient that's in Restore for people that really want to shut that transmission down and that pathway down, which causes the progression of growth of negative cells. This is a really great key ingredient. So I think the next slide talks about the properties of what are the properties, like why is it important? This is just one of the many articles. It's a study that evaluates in vitro and in vivo. And just so you guys know, that's when we say in vivo, in vitro, it's if it's in a petri dish in a lab, or if it's human experience. And there's benefits to both. Depending on the article you read, sometimes it can pertain to animals too, but there's benefits to both. And let me explain that to you guys. You can look at certain things when you're in a lab that you can't look at in a person, and vice versa. And of course, we always want to test things when they're actually in human beings or animals. This particular article, it's animals, because they were looking at mice, which I've said this before, mice have the closest DNA to us. So a lot of times they'll use mice. But if you look at the very bottom, it talks about the 30th day of treatment and the tumor volume. And it talks about the animals that were on the black cumin seed versus the animals that weren't. And interestingly, it talks about how the incident of I never can say that either, metastasis. Can you say it better than me, Dori?
What do you, metastases?
Yeah, I never say it right. Yeah.
Yeah.
I have a speech impediment, so I have to I could not say it 10 times. But anyway, this particular study talks about the fact that it inhibits the incident of that, and it basically improves the survival. And let me stop and say this. When you read this, and there's a lot of words in there, and if you ask me how important are all the words, all of them are very important. It talks about P815. It talks about the different pathways, the different results in the mouse model. But what's really important is a summary. And I had another call this morning, because I've been on so many calls, where we talked about data, but then we talked about actual results. And this goes back to Claire's friend and Dori's friend, who I love too, Susan. And interestingly, it wouldn't matter if the results said one thing, but she never got better. Right? What really matters is someone's quality and quantity of life, and do they really get better? And in this particular study, they had great results when it was actually used in both incidences. But the biggest thing about this article, the biggest takeaway, isn't really the science, in my opinion. It's the fact that it improved the survival of the mice that were in the study. It also basically stopped the incidence of growth and the ability for it to travel, because when things metastasize, they go throughout the body, right? So when you're dealing with cancer, it's easier usually to deal with a tumor that doesn't grow, or that's growing slowly. Like I had a syringomyelia and a prolactinoma brain tumor. That's easier to deal with than like when my son Kreider went to Vanderbilt and they told us it had metastasized to 17 areas of his body. That's when you start worrying, right? And in this particular study, it just shows that it helped not just with survival, but also with it metastasizing to other parts of the body.
Well, even in human studies, the thymoquinone has been effective in inhibiting different stages, like you're mentioning, different stages of cancer, from proliferation to migration and invasion. So I like to think of the black cumin seed as a panacea, except for death itself. I mean, I think it's actually written somewhere written this way.
I like that. I like that a lot, actually. But again, guys,
write that down.
And write that down. Let me write it down on this piece of paper.
Claire, take a note.
Down. But going to this, we need to understand that this product with these ingredients, it's not just there to support, again, wellness. It's there to optimize your life so that you can live the best quantity and quality of life. And so what that means, of course, is you can live as long as possible with the best health and wellness, and that includes mental, physical health. We don't have this on the slide, but I can tell you that particular ingredient also does help with depression, anxiety, ADHD, Alzheimer's. There's tons of different articles on it. So now we're talking about raspberry, which a lot of people know that I love red raspberry. And there's different things you can look at. I think that in Europe, we did not use the ketones. We did at first in the product. We really focused on the extract. I did, because what I really wanted was to look at the different isolates and compounds that are in raspberry. And I wanted to be able to utilize it in this particular formula to help with everything from aging, weight loss, cancer, a risk of disease, everything, blood sugar. That was really important to me to have this in this particular product, because when this was made, and I think I've told you guys this, my thought process was, I can't claim to cure anything. I can't claim to fix everything, but we need a product that we can take every day, no matter where we are. And it's going to help us. It's going to help us with a variety of things in our daily life so we can optimize the life that we have. And that's what we have in this particular product, because it helps with a lot of different things. But it does, the raspberry extract does have a lot of articles as well, a lot of research pertaining to anti-cancerogenic effects of this particular ingredient. It also has a lot on the immune system. You guys have heard Dori and I do talks as far as the effect of raspberry with viruses and with bacteria, fungus. Again, this is one of those amazing products. It's like a ninja, and it's very, very strong. I think this is a female product because this ingredient is amazing. Years ago, I think it was 10 years ago, I was trying to remember when it first started, they first started having articles about how red raspberry helps with metabolism and aging and hormones and collagen production and all this stuff. I became extremely interested in it. But looking at it from a perspective from pharmaceutical, because that used to be my background, it was one of the key ingredients studied that could really assist with certain types of cancer, just like turmeric and black cumin seed. So you can see basically a similar process when this formula was developed, of looking at what can we stop, what can we help, how can we really help the body be the best it can be and optimize where we are. And so this particular ingredient, it does have different effects on tumor cell viability and immune parameters. And I want to explain that really quick. Dori can explain it more after I do. But when you look at tumor cell viability, you really want to get the tumor cell to stop, right? You don't want it to be viable. You want that viability to go away. So you've really got to approach the tumor cell in a way where you can disseminate it so it's no longer a tumor cell. A lot of people are used to hearing me talk about when you stop or get rid of a heavy metal, right? You got to rip it apart. Raspberries actually have an effect like that. It's a different, of course, it's not a honeycomb structure like a silica or a zeolite, but it does have the ability to really change parameters and to really try to rip things apart. And I think that's because of the cytotoxic effect of this particular product. It can really help with stuff. Another ingredient that has some similar properties are the apricot seed. But the issue with apricot seeds is you have to be really careful. Raspberry extracts are more attributable, and we talk about this at the end, to pH, and they're more compatible. So I guess how I would say, so during the process where it's eradicating through the different cytotoxic effects of this product, it's safer. I guess that's the way I should say it, because some of the products or ingredients that you use, they're great, but they can be considered not as safe if you use a different amount. And I really wanted this product for people to be able to take it once a day or 3 to 4 times a day. And I wanted it to be able to be eliminated through the system in an easy way. And raspberries are, especially the red raspberry.
Well, you know, what's interesting about the red raspberry is that it's actually kind of dependent on the gut microbiota. So
Yeah.
if you look at like say, for example, I know we're talking about Restore, but I just love the Relive greens, because that is also really, I like to think of that as the gut bomb of the products that you have. And then when the gut is, you know, restored, the raspberry is just, I mean, it's just like the icing on the cake. So it's definitely, I mean, there's lots of studies on that as well. I was actually quite surprised to see that, because I was looking for the ketones, but the raspberry itself is just like really amazing for that.
It is. And, you know, I used to be fixated on the ketones, and then I started looking into it more. And there's the cytotoxicity, for example, the ability to get rid of things is actually in the red raspberry. And I think the ketones became a hot topic. I'm sure you remember when this happened, Dori, because of the metabolism. But if you actually look at the red raspberry overall, it is known to increase metabolism. But I think it's because, back to your point, Dori, and that was a great point, by the way, is what it does in the GI and the microbiome. I think that it's its effect and how it really, I really look at it as a peacemaker, especially with your pH levels and the different acid levels throughout the body. So I love this particular ingredient. A lot of people use it. I think we should use it in a face product clear at some point. But anyway, it's an amazing product. And I really want you guys to know, when you think about it, because I know a lot of us have family and friends that have had cancer like me, or have gone through things like Susan. I mean, we all have people in our lives, right? So it's really important that we give people something and they understand what it does. I say this all the time. It's not just the product, it's our understanding of the product and our acceptance of it in our body. And I know that sounds weird coming from a scientist, but I really believe that. What do you believe, Dori?
I believe everything that you believe.
Yeah, I think we believe the same thing, because it's no, I really do.
It's true.
Oh, absolutely.
Claire too.
I know. Yeah. I think that's one of the unique things about the Root community, is that we bring in the emotional and mental and spiritual aspects of everything. And again, we all share the same DNA. So we're sharing DNA with these ingredients, and these ingredients are meant to help our body. And now I get to talk about D-ribose, that I've been criticized for multiple times because I put it in my drink. No,
it's an amazing product.
I know, Dori. I get hammered for it on stuff. Why do you use D-ribose? And I'm like, can we explain this to people? I'm like, it is a catalyst. It's something that I can use in ingredients that really help it work throughout the body, that help it move throughout the body and really penetrate. But Dori, you know, there's other reasons that it's used. I mean, and they're on the slide. It really, really helps the body in managing fatigue. Guys, when someone's had cancer like me, or even, look, let me just say this, when someone's been traveling at my age, like me, I get tired. Or when someone's redoing a kitchen, you know what I mean, Dori? Like you've been doing while you're doing your multiple.
I need lots of D-ribose.
I mean, especially women, guys, listen, and men, as we age, we need D-ribose. It helps boost our energy. It enhances our performance. Dori knows it improves cardiac functioning. Dori, I had a message yesterday, and I was told that why is D-ribose in one of your products? And did you know that it causes heart attacks? And I said,
no.
I don't think that. I mean, I had to answer that. You've seen some of the questions lately. And I'm not making fun of people. Believe me, I want to say this. I'm not making fun of people. I want you guys to know, though, a lot of times WebMD or something, and I'm not against them, but they'll put something out. You got to look into the whole picture. And D-ribose is one of those ingredients that has so many potential benefits. It really does, from mood to energy to functioning and performance. And when people have cancer, this is something that impacts their life, not just their physical life, but their mental and emotional, and definitely their energy levels and their ability to even function in life. So it was really important that D-ribose was added. And I also know that it can regulate and mediate with tumor cells. We're going to talk about that a little bit on the next slide. But just this fabulous ingredients has a lot of different things that it does. I want to go to the very last slide, the last sentence, because I do that a lot, and then I'll go back up. But at the very end, it says, we review the role of D-ribose in tumor progression and discuss inhibition of D-ribose as a promising approach for chemotherapy of various tumors. Why is that? That is, again, because of its effect of at stopping the different pathways. I can't talk. It inhibits and causes basically apoptosis where it should be and stops it where it shouldn't be. So I want to explain that to you guys. Apoptosis is programmed cell death that I talked about earlier, but here's the problem. Cell death can occur with good cells, right? You want to keep your good cells and get rid of the bad cells. The problem with a lot of chemotherapy is it goes in and it just gets rid of all the cells. So to utilize something that's targeted, you need to be able to have an ingredient with a natural isotope and active, which will hopefully not destroy everything else. You don't want to kill the good cells. So I think that's very important. I think it's one of the things that I love about this ingredient. They've looked at it, not just with chemotherapy, but with human monoclonal antibodies because of the way it's able to do the mediation and how it affects the functioning in the body. And it really can stop, again, the expression of tumors so that it stops the progression of the tumor growing. So
I think that was very much a key in Susan's ability, because it was incredibly supportive and that nothing grew really basically back, which was amazing. I see it like a spark plug.
I love you saying that, Claire, because, you know, we always say, please consult with your doctors. We always say we don't claim to cure anything. We don't claim to get rid of anything. But I get very frustrated because I will hear, you know, my dad went through all this, my son, I did. And when you go to a doctor and they say, oh, you can't take any of this because it feeds the cells. And my comment is, okay, so you can eat a brownie, you can eat a hamburger, you can eat, you know, 1,000 McDonald's I shouldn't say McDonald's, hamburgers that we don't know what's in it, right? And we know that there's probably things that aren't good for us in it, but we can't have something good like D-ribose. And here's what I want to tell people. Before you ask some of the questions, what you really need to say is, can I have a raspberry? Like, can I have a good type of sugar that doesn't make me gain weight, that gives me energy? The answer is going to be yes. It's when you bring up something that they don't understand that the answer is no. And thankfully, Claire, you and Dori were able to help Susan, and you should feel amazing about that, because without your influence, who knows how it would have turned out? You just don't know. But the ability to have a product like this that can support, and I love how you just brought that up, Claire, support during this process. We're not saying don't do chemotherapy and radiation. That's your individual choice. And Claire and Dori know this, because I was involved in the beginning, and Dori knows, Claire knows, I was asked many questions. I did not want to steer her away from traditional treatment, just like I didn't want to steer my dad or me or my son. Instead, I wanted to look at every avenue and how do we approach this the best way? Because instead of having 3 rounds of 30 weeks of chemotherapy and radiation, if you can get rid of something and support the body during that process, whether it's with the chemotherapy and radiation or without, then you have, or with surgery and or without, because, you know, she had different options. That's your best thing. And again, I want to go back to this. We are using pure ingredients. So when you're using the root of turmeric, if you went to the doctor and said, can I have a sweet potato root, right? Or can I have turmeric root? They're not going to say no, but it's when you come to them with something they don't know, right? And kudos to Susan for looking at every avenue and making her own decision, because Claire, I know you didn't put pressure on her. Dori didn't. She made that decision on her own. And I am so pro-choice for people making decisions about what they put in their body from a health and wellness perspective.
And the other thing that was very interesting, that what they had decided the amount of chemo that she needed, she had less chemo than they thought she would need. So there was a quicker result because of what else she was taking.
It's amazing.
Yeah.
It's amazing. She looked perfect. I mean, I told Dori when I saw her, you would never have even know.
She's got all her hair as well. It's amazing.
I mean, she looked perfect. Well, that's interesting too, because some of these products help you grow hair. But that's not our topic today. I think the next thing we're going to talk about is resveratrol. Unless do you have anything to add on this one, Dori?
I was just going to say, you know, that D-ribose is really important, not from just like obviously a heart perspective. I mean, I could talk about that for quite a while, but mainly for the mitochondria, right? What happens if your mitochondria doesn't have any energy? You can't do anything. Pretty much dead.
It's a battery. It's a battery.
Exactly. So that, just think of it as the spark, you know, like it helps the mitochondria to give it, you know, for the energy production. It's you need D-ribose. I mean, it's naturally occurring. It's a monosaccharide, so you need to have it. The triad for cardiac health, you know, is D-ribose, L-carnitine, and coenzyme Q10. Those are like 3 really important things. But anyways, back to resveratrol. So that's what I want to say about that.
It's very important. And as you know, I'm going to just add on to that about the heart, not that we're here to talk about that. Resveratrol is very good with anti-cancerogenic properties, as well as helping with blood pressure in the heart and helping with blood fat, protecting the cognitive functioning of the brain, which I love resveratrol for. And, you know, you can only drink so many glasses of wine. I've said that. We know now that well, I can drink a few glasses. I did in New York. I missed you guys. But no, you know, my whole thing about it is now we know that the resveratrol content in wine and grapes is not what it used to be because of the GMOs, and we do GMO tracing and do all this stuff with our products. So I think it's really important to let people know how amazing resveratrol is. I think a lot of us have done research as it pertains to wine and grapes, but to really isolate it and put it into a product, it's able to help with a lot of things, and it's shown repetitively to have anti-cancerogenic properties. So it helps deactivate again these molecular pathways, so that the cancer cells, if you can deactivate it, and I say this all the time, take the signaling down, take the cell phone coverage down, right? And if my cell phone tower doesn't work, I cannot call Claire, I can't call Dori, I can't call Joni, Shauna, I can't call any of you guys, Bridget, Birgit, I can't call Regina, I can't call anyone. So what you have to do is you got to cut that down. And that's one of the things that resveratrol does. And that's why it's known to really suppress cancer cells and make them not continue to grow. This is another thing they've used with cancer therapies. It's pretty highly known. I think, Dori, I say that, but then I think, well, is that because that's what I've studied my whole life? I'm not sure, but this has been a chemotherapeutic agent that they've looked at for years. They actually have added it to some of the cell standard treatments they use for cancer. They know that it actually doesn't just help with the anti-cancer activity, but they know that resveratrol helps with bioavailability and pharmacokinetics.
It's a chemosensitizer.
Yeah, which I love. I mean, so this goes back again to the case that Claire was talking about. It helps guys so that it works, but it also helps intercellularly, so it's targeting the right cells. So you don't want to blow up the whole body because you need cells to thrive that should be there. Instead, you need to make it bioavailable to the areas it should go to get rid of cancer cells. This is something I've worked on my whole life, is understanding how do you program something and to target to go in to kill a cell that shouldn't be there. This is not something new to science. This is something that's been used for 30 years. It's not novel. It's just not talked about everywhere. Your doctors that really specialize, especially the scientists, understand it. So I want to tell you guys, it's so amazing to work with a product that I know that when people take it, it's working with the natural ability of the body to get rid of the things the body doesn't need, but to optimize the things that the body does need. And I think that's what's so amazing about resveratrol.
Okay.
You take it, that's one of the reasons you probably take it every day, because it's cardioprotective too, Dori.
Well, not only that, I was first originally taking resveratrol by itself because, allergies and things like that, because it actually has a histamine blocking effect. So if you're taking this product, you probably notice that if you have allergies, it's going to be less.
Is that why Claire drinks so much wine?
I love raspberries, actually. My go-to fruit.
Trying to teach you, Claire. So now I'm going to aloe vera. Oh my gosh, I love aloe vera. And I love the fact that we have it in this product. People are always like, what does this product help my skin? And by the way, I have not used this product on my skin in about a week, and I need it because I've been traveling. I usually use it 2 to 3 times a week. And just between Europe and New York and being all over Cyprus, I'm not using it quite as much, and I could tell a huge difference on my skin. And anytime I use it, people tell me they notice my skin looks different. They always ask me what I'm doing, and I'm doing Restore. But anyway, the aloe vera is not just for the skin. It's not just for burns. It's not just for skin injuries. This plant has antibacterial properties, antioxidant properties. It accelerates wound healing, not just on the outside, but on the inside. It helps with everything from skin and wrinkles. And guess what, guys? It's also one of those things that helps relieve the symptoms associated with cancer in numerous articles. And it's because there's been articles that show that it can inhibit the proliferation. So proliferation is the growth, the continuous growth. So it does that because it acts synergetically with the rest of the body. We're going to talk about that a little bit on the next slide, but it is known as being what's called an anti-cancerogenic agent. And that goes back to, again, what we talked about earlier. It assists the body in really targeting where it should and down regulating where it shouldn't, and really having the body work effectively. We know that it increases the efficacy of products. And we also know that it is being looked at as a novel treatment for cancer strategies all over the world. It has been used in some drugs and some products because of the way that it really does impact the different phases of the cell cycle. So when you have cancer, there's different phases of a cell cycle, and the cancer cell or the cancer communicator will affect that so it doesn't work. This particular product helps heal just like it does on the outside of the body. And I think that's what's so important. When you have cancer, it's a part of your body and you want to get rid of it, but you want to keep the good parts of your body. And this does it in a way that is time dependent. And what I mean by that is it will do it through different time cycles with the cell as you use it. One of the reasons I tell people I really like them taking Restore 3 times a day, whether they take it in the morning or whether they take a full packet or take 3 packets. I really love if people break it up. That being said, I understand people are busy, and so sometimes they just take it in the morning. But Claire will tell you this: when she came to me with her friend, I said I really want it broken up like in 3s. If she can't afford 3 packets, 3. But the reason I want that is aloe vera is time dependent in a lot of ways, and you want to keep it throughout your system so it can continuously work with the body and the natural ability to get rid of things it doesn't need, like cancer cells or cancer growth. So the next ingredient is apple cider vinegar. And I think you guys know this, but I want to make sure you do know. Cancer, there are people that are prone to cancer, like me, right? Their family is, their DNA, but it doesn't have to be activated. One of the things that activates cancer are what's called environmental factors. So what's an environmental factor or environmental stressor? Bacteria, viruses, heavy metal, parasites, fungus, stress, and yes, I said stress, lack of sleep, pollution. These are all stressors, right? And I think what's wonderful about apple cider vinegar is that it helps the body, again, with the healing process and helps with the cell damage. So it's not as bad. It also helps kill bacteria. We don't have it on here, but it can also help, again, with parasites, fungus, viruses. helps with the blood sugar. It's very well known because of the acid in it. You guys, it actually helps the body with the pH and the acid levels because of what's inside of it. And I know Dori knows this and everyone else on the call, but I'm going to say it anyway. It helps the microbiome. Some people think it's a natural pre and probiotic. It really helps the body with that entire process. And so it's really important. Of course, it helps with the skin and the heart and everything else, but we're focused today on really cancer. And that's what I love about it, is its natural ability to help. This is another study, and it talks about basically what I just said, but it looks at gastric cancer, which goes back to how this product really assists. And it also looks at different cell lines. And it's not just this particular cell line, but it's other cell lines that they've looked at in numerous articles. But this present study was to examine whether acidic acid, can directly induce cancer death. And you guys, we've done lots of talks on this. So Dori, I'm going to let you, because I know you've done talks with Clay as well. You know how acetic acid can impact the body. So if you can use it as a powerful anti-cancer agent, it can really assist the body overall. Something a lot of people don't talk about is if that level is not correct, and if it's way too much or way too low, it impacts the body as well. And we don't really talk about that in this particular article, but what I like about the amount of apple cider vinegar that is used in the Restore with the other ingredients is it was really targeted when this product was made at really impacting the gastric acid levels and helping the body with the healing process. Another reason this particular ingredient was used is because it is another catalyst that helps it be more bioavailable and helps it work more effectively throughout the body. And one more thing, because I know it's not in our slide deck, it also can assist with the different chemotherapies and radiation and helping the body detox as well as optimize. And again, we just didn't have time to go over all those different things. Finally, I want to say this. We know that apple cider vinegar also helps with malignancy and helps it not metastasize. And again, that's another problem. We can't have people are going to get cancer sometimes, like me. I had someone tell me the other day, well, you must have done something negative to get cancer. And I said, I don't know. I don't think I've done everything positive, but I don't think that people are bad when they get cancer. I also think there's lots of different things we can do to help them. And I think one of the most important things we can do is to support their bodies in the natural process. We need the tools. We need to be given the tools, and then we need to share them. In life, it's so much easier to stay home and to just worry about ourselves. And that's important because we talk about this. We've got to protect our bodies. We've got to worry about ourselves. But we as a root community need to help others, and we need to share the story. And so for me, again, it doesn't really matter if people are here for the science or for the financial aspect. As long as we share this and help people in our world be the best they can be, that has to be our approach. And it has to be with true intention. It has to be with true focus. And I know that's one of the reasons we've grown so fast. So just keep up the hard work, keep up learning the science, because even if the science isn't your focus, if you can learn the details of the science, you can touch so much more people in your life. One of the things I love about Dori's call on Tuesday and Clayton's call is they approach that call with their own personalities. And, you couldn't be more different from Dori and Clayton. It's kind of like me. Clayton and I are so different, but it's like night and day, but yet they support each other and who they are, and they love each other for who they are. And I know today's call was about science, but because of where I've been, I wish you guys were each with me at that meeting. And as we continue to grow this, we will all be more involved in it. Just like Ethiopia, I have not let that drop. We were working on some of the Ethiopia stuff while I was there. We have a lot to do as a root community. And as we grow, there's no way I can handle everything, or Dori, or Claire, or Alana, or any of you guys, Kirsten, all of you guys, Shauna, we all have so much to do. So let's support each other and let's do it together. And let's not just look at this call and think we learned something, let's share this information so that we can help people. If Claire would not have stayed on top of helping Susan, if Dori would not have stayed on top of helping Susan, it wouldn't have mattered that I made these products. It would have been irrelevant. That's why I say to you guys every second, thank you for being nice to me. But let me just explain this. I'm just one piece. You guys are so much more than me.
Thank you, Christina, for that enlightening presentation. But before we go, I think that people would like to know that if a loved one or their battle, I know we're not making any claims or anything like that, but they always want to know, the question we always get is, how do they take that product when they're going through something like that? I mean, when should they go on and off of it? Of course, I always say, defer to the doctor, but of course, they don't really have any understanding about the product. So then I, find studies and things. I have several studies that I usually send out so that they can give to their doctor, because there is some, there is a guideline of when to take it, when to stop, and then when to cycle back on again, depending on what you're taking.
Yeah. And very different. Yeah. And I say this a lot, because I've had my family and me and, all of us that have been on different treatments at different times. When people go through chemotherapy and radiation, it's hard to even keep food down. Right. And you really, during that day of radiation and chemotherapy, I don't usually advise people to take it. That being said, Dori, I'm just going to let you know this. There have been plenty of people that have reached out to me that do it because it's the only thing they can take. And I can tell you that for me, if you ask me if I would take it, I'm more comfortable waiting 24 to 48 hours so that you can let the body go through what it's going through. And if people are on chemotherapy and radiation every day, for example, you of course have to listen to your doctor. But, part of the problem with radiation and chemotherapy, and I know you guys know this, so it's not new, but it's killing things that don't need to be there. And like I said earlier, it's also killing things that we want there. But if you can stop that process after it's killed the things that don't need to be there and support the body in optimizing health and wellness, that's why I think like Susan and these different people are getting better. So there is a process. Like I wouldn't want someone taking this product while they're on the table doing chemotherapy and radiation. And, we talked about this, and even some people I've said, when they've told me their specific situation, again, I always say consult with the doctor, but I'm like, you need to wait a week or you need to wait 2 weeks, but I'm more comfortable with 24 to 48 hours once it's done. I still think people should be on this to support their body and wellness before they get on the products, or before they get to chemotherapy and radiation. The issue why it's so hard to answer, and the story, is some people will do radiation every day. Some people will be every 2 weeks. Some people will be every 4 weeks. But I really like people to wait. I kind of had a family member the other day, and I just said 24 to 48 hours before stop taking it, and 24 to 48 hours after you can resume. But then there was another friend of mine that I said, it was a different cancer situation, different autoimmune issue that was involved with the cancer. And I was like, I think because of what you're on, you need to wait a week. I mean, it just depends. So, and I know we can't, the issue we have on the science side is we can't give medical advice.
Exactly.
And, so, I mean, I'm sure they'd love to hear how you feel. Another thing that happens with me, because I make the products, is I always feel kind of, well, I'm sure you feel the same way, Dori, because you're over the research and everything. I feel responsible, like if it was Dr. Keshkesh with the patient, Dori, he'd probably have him. I think he'd probably do what I just said. Well, I know I've seen some of his case studies, maybe he was 24 to 48 hours, but then he has it. And I also say this about medication people are on, because some people are on medication that have a half-life and steady state. You really want to wait 2 to 4 hours, sometimes 6 hours between taking the different products and that pill, because you want it to reach that peak plasma steady state, but then you want to cut it off after it's going down. And I hope I'm explaining that right. If you want to add to that, I would love to hear your comment on it.
No, I think you explained it perfectly.
Yeah, I could actually also say from with Susan's, what she did before she even started the chemotherapy and the radiotherapy, she was on the product. So she built herself up, and so that she already was had a lot of the restore. And eliminated a lot of the heavy metals before she even started the chemo. At least 2 months, I think it was. So I think that gave her extra ability to overcome the effects of the chemo.
Yeah. And I think that, you know, each person, like I said, it's an individual. We try to answer as many questions as possible, but hopefully we covered a lot of this on this call, and it will help, you know, even more people. And again, we do answer individual questions, but we just have to be careful how we answer them.
Yeah, absolutely. And always defer back to your physician because they're your doctor. All right, everyone. Thank you so much for the call. Thank you, Christina and Claire and everyone on the call for taking the time out to hear this presentation. And we'll see you next week.
Thanks, everyone. Have a wonderful weekend.
Bye-bye.
Thanks a lot. I
Let me put the
appreciate
gallery
it.
Bye-bye.